one of the farmers in the group can represent them, and they aggregate their produce. And it's a group of small farmers with very strict controls over who grows, who sells, and how food's grown. So we began thinking of this food system as a global system, interactive, interconnected, and it's sort of holistic if you think about it. And it gives us, I think, a foundation for change, for action, for simultaneously developing alternative food systems while providing at least a model for what the industrial monocultural system could be or needs to be, so that we can move from a primary focus of production and profit. And I claim that's what conventional systems are concerned about and primarily only concerned about, production and profit, to one of focusing on food security, food sovereignty, nutrition and health, and ultimately sustainability. So that's led us into the third edition that just came out, gosh, a month and a half or so ago. And notice now the photograph is actually a farm landscape of that farmer in southern Costa Rica who told me if he could get more money for his coffee, he could grow other things besides coffee. And this is an aerial photograph taken with some of the new, well, you're using a little drone and special cameras and all that good stuff, huh? But you see a forest, you see a farm field, you see the coffee, you see a stream flowing, you see annual crops, you see animals. It's all there. It's an incredible integrated landscape that, because he's been able to get better money for his coffee, can depend less on coffee in the development of this system. So based on this, we've added a fifth level now, kind of the ultimate level, I think. Maybe, we'll see. But it's one in which we build upon the foundation built by the first three levels at the farm level, and then add the fourth level in terms of sustainable food relationships, and really start focusing on building a new global food system. And I mean global, because food is interconnected throughout the world. Based on resilience, participation, localness, fairness, and justice, that's not only self-sustainable as a food production system, but since it's connected and integrated across the landscape, it helps protect Earth's life support systems as well. So the future of food's much, much more than ending hunger, although that's an important goal. And the future of food's much more than just increasing production, which is also an important goal. It's really taking in our own hands, and I know many of you are thinking about how can you as an individual have an impact on the food system. Well, that's the next step for all of you. An example, a nonprofit organization that my wife Robbie and I co-founded, 15 years ago now. Robbie's here, making sure I don't invent anything. But can you imagine a small nonprofit that was started by a group of graduate students and us, working in Latin America, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Mexico, where we wanted to apply agroecology. We wanted to do agroecology in these communities using participatory, action-oriented approaches to determining what the problems were, what the potential solutions were, and how this was contributing to change in our food systems. Lots of different examples, from corn in the Yucatan and the importance of local varieties, and the milpa system, they call it, the corn system, where it's not just corn, it's a whole lot of things all integrated into the landscape. Coffee, and how there's something that we could maybe call sustainable coffee, which is really a different definition than what Starbucks calls sustainable coffee. You really got to get into asking hard questions about, when they use those words, what do they mean? And what proof do they have that it really is backed by our agroecological understanding? And empowering farmers to take charge of their product and not just be at the mercy of an intermediary, by developing alternative market systems and involving young people back and forth interculturally, with linking our university students at Santa Cruz with youth from the communities that are becoming the leaders of the food systems, and using this participatory action research approach, PAR, where from the very beginning we sit down with the community that we're working with and together decide what is it we're going to research. We don't come with a research agenda. We come with an agroecological focus, but the actual research agenda is developed together in a participatory way. It takes time. It takes trust building. It takes work to come up with. But when you finally reach an agreement and move forward into research, reflecting on the research itself, and then moving into the changes, and then starting the process again, and then distributing out and sharing it beyond the community you're working with. That's a network. That's an agroecological network. And the communities we work with has actually developed a brand of coffee, agroeco coffee. How about that? And I think it's for sale at the farmers market here in Berkeley on the weekends, thanks to one of your TAs. You should check it out. Where, again, unique in the sense that everybody's at the table when we talk about the price the farmers are going to get. The farmer cooperative or association, the exporter, the roaster, and us, all together, coming up with something that I like to think of as beyond fair trade, because it's truly the participation of everyone in the food system in the process. And it's even created a couple funds, one a sustainability fund that the community uses for projects in the community, and a payment fund for unpaid work of women. Can you imagine? Women who normally are not even recognized for the work they do during the coffee harvest, including harvesting the coffee, but everything else that supports the family. This is a fund that they, as a group of women, choose how they're going to use it for bettering of their community. That's all worked into the price that you pay when you buy the coffee. And then our nonprofit has always had these essential components of you need social organization, that social resource, and an interesting indicator of sustainability. And it has to include broad participation of all members of the community. Transparency and trust, which takes time to build and sometimes doesn't work. And you can invest a lot of time and energy in a community and then things fall apart. That's the nature of community-based work, really. But it builds capacity. You build capacity like in the research itself. Young people in the community become the researchers, working alongside the researchers, taking data, analyzing it. And we just had a student go down with a bunch of laptops, or not even laptops, tablets that'll be used to gather the data and transmit it. And so it can, and it gets put into a context that gives us more information for change, which is then shared across knowledge systems and networks. I always like to think about this forest below Pico de Orizaba in Veracruz, where we're working with a couple communities. And that's a coffee forest. It's got native species as the cover, but underneath is coffee. And around the edges are a series of other kinds of crops that contribute to the livelihoods of the folks in these communities. Multifunctional landscape, conserving resources, conserving soil, producing water, sequestering carbon. All the things that we call environmental services should be rewarded, should be recognized and included in the price that those folks receive for their coffee. Now, all of you are interested in education, and I like to think of action education for sustainable food systems. Action in the sense that you're learning it for not just for knowledge's sake, but to do something, to create change. And it can begin and needs to begin at the school garden level. And Robbie was one of the co-founders of Life Lab in Santa Cruz. And then the edible schoolyard programs here in Berkeley, how they've been models of how to engage students at early ages in this whole process of food system change, not just how to plant a seed, something much more beyond that. And the system at UC Santa Cruz has been in place for over 40 years. Now the farm and garden program with all its diverse organic management, an important place for training and demonstration and transfer of knowledge. And I know that here at Berkeley now, with the Gill Tract land and the idea of it potentially becoming a center for urban agriculture and food justice, and how that, to me, really honors the roots of agroecology here at Berkeley that started at the Division of Biological Control at the Gill Tract and was brought here years ago by Dr. Miguel Altieri. So linking those together allows you to do things like we've done for years at Santa Cruz, teaching classes that are hands-on, field-based, where the experiments of agroecology, the students plant. They care for them. They take the data, and of course they harvest the crop, weigh it, and then take it home and eat it. So you get to follow the whole process. And here in California, we have that ability. Every campus needs a place for that kind of thing to happen.